But yeah, the fluoride issue is key. I mean, just another thing that people sort of tacitly lend their consent to, and it's based on just pseudoscientific catchphrases parroted by experts who are largely self-appointed. Like no one who gives them the right to administer a dubious treatment like this, carte blanche.
Well, it's
Like
crazy to
it's
me
pretty.
when we can connect these dots. The UNC, you know, behemoth, being
Yeah.
involved, implicated in this coronavirus scandal, but also, I mean, it shouldn't surprise anybody because they've been involved with biowarfare from the beginning. I mean, Oscar Ewing, who
Right.
retired in Chapel Hill and involved himself in the creation of the Research Triangle Park, which is directly involved with the universities around them, the funding for Duke, NC State, and UNC. He was the head of the uh, it was the predecessor to the Department of Health and Human Services called the Federal Security Agency. And
Mm.
under the Federal Security Agency, there was biowarfare departments from dating back to World War One, Federal Research Department, and other, like they had all. I mean, biowarfare basically came out of there, and he retired in Chapel Hill.
Mm-hmm.
So like his involvement, he was also a lawyer for the Aluminum Company of America, which is a key
Wow.
producer of hydrofluorosilicic acid and fluoride as a result of
That's
aluminum
right.
refining. And
That's
it's
right.
just, it to me, it's just no surprise when you look at the fact that it was actually UNC, University of North Carolina, who owned the public water utility in Orange County to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only in the 70s that they created the Orange Water and Sewer Authority, which is only a board that sits between, you know, the people and their control of a natural resource.
Yeah, it's this weird like public-private gatekeeping operation, basically, to just be a soundboard from the public and you know circulate their complaints through any number of other bureaucracies and just basically quell dissent through sheer sclerotic inaction. You
Right.
know, and it's a very effective method, and it's a cornerstone of the Delphi method, which we've touched on before, but is honestly a linchpin in the entire bureaucratic makeup. And it's not just the EPA; it's pretty much every single agency when it comes to public comment and public feedback and supposed representation. These gatekeeping public-private kind of quasi-governmental organizations are there to basically appease uh, complaints, reduce the issue to basically a small, minute fringe of people who are, worried about XY thing because they think there's a grand conspiracy. And they've done a really good job at kind of tarring and feathering the opposition with their echo chamber. And most people still refer to their echo chamber as a legitimate source of scientific evidentiary discovery, and it's not. It's been proven over and over again to be spearheaded and led by the very same corporate industries that really shouldn't have any part in determining the safety efficacy of any water supply. And it just goes to show that the university complex is entirely enmeshed
Yeah.
in that whole operation.
In the military complex, because what's going
Yep.
on and what's exposed and really sort of gone over in the Alex Jones clip is that these universities are just getting contracts from the military industrial complex. And what I'm trying to play here is a researcher at UNC who's been researching SARS and MERS vaccines, quote unquote, for since 2003. Okay, so clearly that was funded, post 9/11, and it's biowarfare related. It's probably somewhat classified, but the laboratory technicians don't necessarily know what their research is actually the actual destination for it is. Okay, yeah, right. The ostensible reason is to protect the public. That's probably what they're told. Sure. But in actuality, it's biowarfare research. It's not, like Francis Boyle says, it's Nazi level, mad scientist level experimentation, which has enormous risk and virtually no reward. What's the reward? I don't, what's the reward?
I guess the reward is
depends on your aim, right?
Sure.
If your reward is 90% extermination of the population, then yeah, that's not a reward I'm chasing. But
no,
maybe somebody is after that.
It could scarcely be called something that was worthwhile to even pursue at all. But I think that there's this, God complex over the governing bodies, because their personnel just are oblivious. They're like willfully oblivious to the consequences, because they think that they're absolved from responsibility, or they're on the winning team, or any number of
justifications.
Yeah, pragmatist bromides that they circle around in their head and use as operating justification.
Well, let me see if I can play this. Let's see if it'll load now. Huh, clearly not.
One of the world's leading researchers on the virus calls the triangle.
Weird. Anyways.
Weird. That's weird, because the other clip played fine.
Yeah, it sure did. Well, anyways, despite the fact that we're right near the biowarfare laboratory,
the spread of coronavirus, nobody's immune to this.
Yeah.
So we're all vulnerable. Researchers at the UNC Gillings School of Public Health are working.
Oh, there it is.
We've studied SARS
Gillings
since 2003.
Look at this guy.
Other most divergent
Are you kidding, man?
That has ever been able to spill into human populations across disease. Dr. Ralph Barrick is one of the leading researchers of coronavirus in the world, and he says, like many SARS-related outbreaks, it started in animals, but over the years, it's evolved. The virus has figured out how to be efficiently transmitted from one person to the next.
If you go and find this clip, he's been involved in SARS and MERS research, which many people have alleged, and I think probably correctly so, as a bioweapon, something that was invented. Race-specific bioweapon. There's actually some Chinese research that shows that the coronavirus that's sort of on the market right now, there are specific genetic differences in Asiatic races which make them more susceptible to this particular strain of the coronavirus, which also exhibits in several different studies insertions and alterations which would imply an engineering effort that was made. So I'm personally not super concerned about getting it, but I am concerned about like the overall direction of the government's response to it and
Sure.
the supply chain disruption, because whether it's legit or not, companies are banning travel and enacting travel restrictions, and we have been living under almost multi-decade suppression via the TSA. So they definitely already have the infrastructure to tighten those bolts, so to speak. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, this really could just be a beta test for manufacturing consent for further and further government intrusion and, you know, commandeering public resources and, you know, heretofore basic rights and procedures. But I mean, I think that at the end of the day, they really just want to introduce a new basis by which they can profit through the medical industrial complex.
Right.
And I mean, because even if they do find a vaccine or whatever, I mean, and they give it away for free, that's just kind of like the flu shot. Like they could put any number of things.
What do you mean for free? Give it away for free? You mean it's a circuitous taxpayer money extracted, taxpayer money paid for vaccination that you're talking about? A boondoggle.
Boondoggle.
Yeah.
There's and you know, in 2 years or 3 years from now, you know, the tolls from the coronavirus, even though they may not be in the news like they are today, could be actually taking pretty serious effect. So it seems like the press cycle, there's a sort of PR experiment going on where certain industries amidst the stock market crash are proving to be immune from the downturn and are actually growing. And this could be a certain sector of the big medica corporate industrial base that wants to see, you know, the same kind of growth that Facebook, for example, has seen in the big tech arm of the beast system. So in the long term, they're just trying to find more and more ways to render their presence indispensable in people's lives because of the fear that they're drumming up.
Generate more fear to generate more acceptance of more presence.
Their procedure.
Yeah, their procedure. Their like, you know, people aren't going to as readily reject intrusions on their physical privacy when they're traveling abroad. You know, people already put up with forced vaccinations when they travel to and from some countries. You know,
absolutely, and
the idea of me saying that it's even routine. Forced is like, it will offend somebody that I will say that it's forced, even though it is.